I'm just a busy girl. People are trying to talk to me. Let's get in. Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Kendra Cole here. I am so glad that you guys are here with me for another video. So for this video, I thought that it would kind of be fun to do something other than my makeup, although my makeup looks fabulous. Just kidding. So I kind of thought it would be fun to just do a little bit more than just makeup on my channel. So today I'm gonna start with actually a request. I had a couple of people asking me to curl my hair, but with a very, very special tool. So let me show you. For some of you, this is gonna be old news, but I might show you some different tricks and techniques that I've used because this is my primary way of curling my hair. I haven't touched a curling iron and I can't even tell you how many years. So for me, straightener all day, baby. For me, I have never been able to really keep a curl in my hair. I grew up with very baby fine hair and my hair grows really fast. I would say that it's pretty healthy hair. I don't dye it very often, maybe once a year, sometimes not even that. So for me, my hair has always had a hard time keeping a curl, especially with heat. Sponge curlers, that kind of thing, I can do all day long. That's how my hair works best. But I learned very early on in my young adult life that sometimes I just can't sleep in curlers in order to have curly hair, and it's just a very different type of curl that I want sometimes. So I was like, well, what can I use? That's when I found the straightener technique, and it is literally the only technique I use with heat on my hair. I can't wait to show you a couple of the techniques that I use when I do this. I hope you can really get something from this. Let's get started. So right now my hair looks all pretty. Here in a minute, it's gonna look ridiculous. Are you ready? If this hairdo is not straight from the 90s, I just don't know what is. As someone who grew up in the 90s, straight from the 90s. So I put up half of my hair. I also meant to mention a couple of the products that I have in my hair. So I did wash my hair. I'll be honest, I tend to like to curl my hair on like second day hair or third day hair. I don't tend to like to curl it on clean hair, but if I know that throughout the week I'm going to want to curl my hair, I use a couple of really awesome products. So first I have, this is the Garnier Moroccan Sleek Oil Treatment. So this is just to help with frizzy, dry, unmanageable hair, instant sleek. For me, I just really like the shine that it gives. And I find that after I curl my hair, when I use this when it's wet, so I use that when it's wet, blow dry my hair, it's just less frizzy after I blow dry it. And when I curl it, it doesn't look as fried. So I really like that. You'll have to wash your hands after. It's a true oil. So then the next product I'm gonna go in now with dry hair, ready to curl, is actually same brand, but this is the Sleek and Shine Flat Iron Protector. So this is something that I just use so I don't damage my beautiful, lovely locks. So I will start with a strand, I'll spray it, and brush it out, curl. So there's a couple of different techniques. That's kind of why I'm starting on the bottom of my hair anyway. One, I have very thick hair, so I have to usually cut it in half anyway. But I'm gonna kind of show you not only how to curl your hair with a straightener, but also, or a flat iron, yeah, it's fine, with a flat iron, but also show you how you can do it on yourself, because it's one thing to sit there and do it to somebody else. So it's something else to be able to actually do it to your own hair. Like, how do I get the back of my hair? So my first technique is I split my hair in half. So I have half on one side, half on the other. I brush them out really good. Now I personally start with this very, very back piece, and I start with that to curl. But because I want to show you guys what I'm doing first, I'm going to start with some of these first front edges and go from there. So I'm going to just spray a chunk. This, again, it smells really, really good, but it also will just help protect some of my hair and sometimes, because it does get a little damp, I just go ahead and spray it on, because this isn't a very big section. I spray it on all of it. Let's just do that. Give it a little chance to soak in. It's very important that you brush through. You want to make sure you don't have any knots before you go in. Anytime you are curling, straightening, whatever tool you're using, you want to make sure you have really brushed out, not knotty, no knots in your hair. So you can already see like this side is much more flat and sleek than this side. So there are a couple of techniques you can do when it comes to using a flat iron, just like there is with a curling iron. Also, this is like, oh, I'll have to look up. I'll put right here what inch size this flat iron is. I have had this flat iron for a really long time, for a really, really long time. I can't even tell you how long ago I got it. So it's been a minute. So it's about $375, $350. If you have really damaged hair, definitely go more for the $350. For me, again, my hair is really healthy. I very rarely curl my hair, so it needs a little bit more heat. But if you are like, this is something I do all the time, you want to make sure that you are protecting your hair. So, and I'm not a hairstylist, so if you are a hairstylist, you're about to cringe when I say this. But really, for the most part, your hair has to die a little bit before it's really gonna take any kind of heat, whether it's curling iron, flat iron. It just does. It has to, basically, you have to fry it a little before it's gonna be, the more healthy your hair is, the less likely it is to curl. So keep that in mind. That's why sometimes I like it a little hotter if I just got my hair done and all my dead ends are gone. But to this point, it's about $375. So I am going to show you two different techniques. The first one is probably the more universal one, and then I'm going to show you how I kind of do it, and honestly how I learned. Like, I didn't even realize the other one was a thing until I was watching a YouTube video, and I was like, oh, that's how normal people do it. I taught myself how to do this other one. It's really not that much of a rocket scientist moment, light bulb, ding. I just thought, that's how I do it, and that's always how I've done it. So I'm gonna take it depends on how big you want your curls. So if you want to have really tight curls, you're gonna take a really skinny piece. I personally don't like my curls to be really tight. With a flat iron, I will also say your curls are never gonna be super tight. I do think that it gives you the same effect as a larger curling iron. So if you have a really tiny curling iron, then you'll get the really tight ringlets, which obviously isn't really in right now unless you're doing a wedding, a bridal hairdo type thing. It's just not really in as far as day-to-day life is concerned. So bigger, looser curls are more in right now, and so a lot of people use the bigger curling irons in order to achieve that effect. I feel like the straightener already kind of does that for you because there's so much flat space when you're curling it. So this is kind of the amount I'm using, not very much. And sometimes when I'm really in a hurry, I'll do bigger chunks, but practice small, see how it goes, and the less hair you have, the less tangled it will be. I'm gonna actually show you the technique that I'm doing in my hair before I touch my hair so I don't burn my hair. So I'm gonna put it on like this. You can see my Conair, very faded Conair signature right here. That side is gonna go up towards the ceiling and I'm gonna pull down. So it's almost doing here to the front, going up towards the ceiling, all the way towards me, and then I'll pull down, okay? So, and then obviously have some kind of heat protectant. I have a towel right here just so I don't burn my desk. So in, flip up and around, and pull. Don't freak out, that's not my hair catching on fire. That's the product doing its job. So now on this other side, so I'm gonna let that cool a little bit, I'm gonna show you my technique. Okay, so for me, and now I'm going to kind of show you again. Well, let me do it where my Conair goes down a little bit more. So you can see my Conair. What I'm going to do is I'm going to curl it up, so it's going to start going up, and I'm actually going to keep rotating it down. So it's going to keep going in a circle. And the first one, I'm going to go up, and I'll kind of show you for my next one, depending on what way you want it to curl. It kind of depends on what you're doing. So this time, I'm going to go up, and I'm going to curl. I'll leave it for a second. Curl. I also just find it just gives me the prettiest curl. I let it just sit for a second. That's my curl. So you can kind of see there's a big chunk here. The next time I'll go the opposite direction. So this way you could probably, if you slowed it down, again, I don't do this way as often. So let's just give her a whirl here, shall we? So if I go, again, it's gonna go up, bringing it all the way down. And we're just gonna very, very slowly. So this way you don't have to move it. Okay, so again, so there's kind of the curl. That's much better. So I still think this one looks so much prettier. Again, if I were better at it, maybe I could get this one a little, but I kind of like this big bend because it kind of gives me a little volume, especially at the end. I'll kind of show you how I shake it out and it looks less Shirley Temple. So I just wasn't waiting for this side as long. So that's kind of my curl. This is kind of my other one. So now I'm going to kind of show you over here my next curl. I'll be honest, I personally don't mind all of mine being the same direction when I'm doing this. I just think it's easier. It's never flat because, again, it's at an angle. So rather than going this direction where my Conair is turning towards my head, I'm going to try to do it the opposite way. So it's a little harder to do, to keep going with the curl. But again, this is where I don't necessarily, so I'm going to turn the Conair away. You just want to make sure the tail keeps going with you, so you might have to flip it around. And then just keep rotating. It's really just that first wrap around that affects the tail. The rest of it's pretty, goes through. So now you can see this one, this curl, you can see the bump turns towards my face. This one is turning away from my face. For some people, they like the mixed matched look. I'll kind of go ahead and show you kind of what I do in the back here just before I start to fast forward. So what I usually do is I start in the back, I take it, my Conair is actually going down, my first one. Now it's going up. And honestly, it might just help if you're learning how to do this and your straightener doesn't have any marking on it. Put a sticker on it, something that you can peel off pretty easily, and that will help you go, okay, sticker's going up, the next one that goes down, right? So that one, it's just kind of easier for me to get it to do it downward. So it was just easier for me to reach. So then what I do, toss it to the back, because then it doesn't get in my way, I don't get it lost. Especially when we bring the front hair down, this is gonna be the easiest, best way to not forget where you are. And for me, I find it really, really helpful to shape the curl before I move it back, just because with a straightener, I feel like it needs to be shaped a little bit better. So I'm gonna just fast forward through this and till we start getting to the top, and I'll see you in a minute. I wonder if I'm gonna get copyrighted for saying the word Conair so many times. Maybe they'll sponsor me, you think? They're gonna be like, yeah, that straightener is 15 years old. We're not gonna sponsor you with that straightener. Sorry. So another thing to note is if any of your pieces get a little wonky, you can always go back in later and fix them once it cools a little bit. If you want it to stay really, really curly like this, that's when you can go in with your hairspray, spray her up so she stays nice and tight. Or if your hair falls a lot during the day, you might want to spray it so it stays really tight before you go through and mess it up, or however you like to do it. So I'm not even going to talk about my hairspray yet, because this hairspray does not hold curls really structurally. I'll explain it later, but there's better hairsprays for if you really want it to stay and be a little hard and you want that curl. I think another thing to keep in mind is that it's okay to just practice when you're not in a hurry and you're not trying to do anything or go anywhere, because the more you practice, when it comes to those moments of like, okay, I really need to curl my hair, you can do it a lot faster. So like for me, I can curl my hair in about 15-20 minutes. It's also kind of a good idea when you're practicing to wear a solid color shirt, because especially like the opposite color of your hair. So like for me, black, I really can see my hair really well. If you have black hair, maybe wear a white shirt, just so that you can really see the pieces you're missing, nothing gets lost. For me, I just find that that really helps. And a solid shirt, not a pattern, because patterns make it a little harder to see. So this whole section took me about 5-6 minutes once I started just going and not stopping every time. So just kind of give you an idea, but my top part is going to be a little thicker. So when it comes to taking down my hair, I always put my curled hair back. I bring my straight hair forward. So it's a little bit like a mullet, straight hair in the front, curly in the back. So anyway, so I'm just gonna start the same technique. I'm gonna spray my side. So the top, I feel like I have to start turning sooner. So towards the bottom and underneath my hair, I care more about the curl at the bottom. So these pieces really close to the top, I'm getting really close to my scalp and turning it almost immediately. And that's just because, at least for a few of my curls, I really like them to go all the way up on the top. So you can see the curl kind of goes all the way up to the top. But if you do like a couple that go all the way to the top for the rest of these, it doesn't matter as much, because you're not going to notice them as much. So just a little trick of a lazy mom. If you ever are to a spot where you're just like, why can't I get this piece? Try just taking a little bit of hair out of it. I promise that that will probably help after it cools a little bit. Sometimes if you try to take too big of chunks, your hair is like, no way. So keep that in mind, that you might need just a smaller piece, smaller chunk. When you lay your hair between the two plates, that you really have them in the center of the plate, because they're going to spread out a little bit. And oftentimes what happens when I get tangled up, it's usually because my hair slid past the plate and now it's like rubbing against the plastic and not the plate. Another thing to think about, if you're not really a morning person, if you're much more of a night owl and you're like, well, I'm gonna have curly hair tomorrow, I'm gonna have to get up early, but it's never gonna happen. Also know, like, you can, if you curl your hair at night and put it, if you have like a shower cap, or if you put it in a really loose braid, something like that, when you wake up, all you'll really have to do is do some touch-ups in a couple of the areas. But for the most part, a lot of your hair will stay pretty intact, at least the lower half. And you can just do a couple of pieces at the very top, just to give it a little bit more life, keep it from being too flat, especially if you are using really strong holding products. For the most part, you can totally, because that's what a lot of people do, they'll curl their hair every day, and if they curl their hair really well one day, all they'll do is just go in the next few days and just touch it up. They're not like starting from scratch curling their entire head every single day. Okay, so this is my curled hair. I just curled this one, so I'm letting it cool a little bit. So as you can see, a lot of my curls, this one's kind of starting a little higher. So because I want a little bit more in these areas, I'm just gonna pick a couple pieces out. And again, I try to do really thin ones because they'll be more likely to hold the curl closer to the root. If you get really big pieces, they're gonna pull themselves out because they're so thick. And even if I can just get it to be, I don't even necessarily have to do the entire strand. See how now that one's going up there, and then I'm gonna just do one more back here, just to give it a little bit. This is kind of why when I'm doing my hair, I kind of rush through a little bit, because no matter how hard I try, every time I get to the end, I have to nitpick. So it's like I may as well get through the rest of my hair fast so that I'm able to nitpick sooner. Okay, so now once you have the curls, I know it looks a little crazy right now, very Shirley Temple-y. Again, not necessarily my style for every day. There are days I like this, but today is not that day. So what I'm gonna do is just very gently start combing my fingers through it. You're just kind of trying to break up those curls. You want to make sure though you wait to do this step until they've completely cooled. If it gets really frizzy when you do this, again, you can always put a little bit of the oil in. The oil, I wouldn't give very much. I would just do a little bit, or if you have another foam, mousse, something that you use, this just kind of helps keep that frizzing down. My hair will fall out a little bit during the day, so some of these will become a little looser. So this is where I come in with the Aussie Sprunch. It's only rated 1 for hold, so it's very flexible when I straighten my hair. And then you can kind of scrunch it a little bit if you want to. You can give it a little bit of volume if you want. If you have a texture spray, so it's kind of like a dry shampoo, but it's more for texture, you can always put it in your roots. That's also a good idea if you are choosing to do your curls at night and then wake up in the morning. It never hurts to spray a little bit of texture in there, just because what happens is our hair gets flat as it gets dirtier. Whew, that was a little crazy. Try again. Just because it makes it look just a little bit more lived in and a little less. I curled my hair like a princess this morning. So that's how I like to wear my curls. I just feel like it looks a lot more natural. Again, a little less. I just spent 4 hours on my hair. Now, obviously, if you're like, I just spent 4 hours on my hair and I want it to look like it, then you go for it. You do not have to do the pulling out. Aussie also has a really good hairspray that's like the 4 strongholds, level 4, and you spray that sucker in your hair and it ain't going nowhere. It is staying there for the rest of the day. So that's kind of, I actually used on my wedding day because I did not want my hair to go anywhere. But I kind of like losing that part, and it kind of again makes it look really tousled and pretty. And again, especially because the side I felt like had some of the better curls, it kind of brings some of the pretty curls on that side. So that is my curly hair. I hope that you were able to kind of figure this out. It is something that will take you some practice. So I hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope you find something that makes you smile. For me, it's my pretty curls. I love my curls. And I hope I see you back here later this week. Bye.